Okay, so at this point, I would like to apply the appeals process to Mr. Johnson's facts, and so I'm going to briefly go over some of these things with you. In 2008, Mr. Johnson sustained a work-related back injury. He had treatment, he had two surgeries, and after the two surgeries, they told him he had reached maximum medical improvement, which basically means that he wasn't going to get any better after the treatment that they had provided him up until that point. And so they released him to light work duties. He also received a workers' compensation settlement of a couple $100s. And then in 2010, he returned back to work for 6 weeks, and he was fired since he couldn't do his job because of his injuries. So Mr. Johnson was denied from his appeal for his request for consideration. So he is retaining us to get him in front of that administrative law judge. And so at this point, we're not filing a lawsuit. We're just assisting him with the claims process. And one thing that we would like for him is to provide us those letters he received from the SSA, because it'll give us some intel as far as, what we need to prove to them to prove why he is disabled. So his household income, he's been unemployed since 2010. Ms. Johnson makes $208,000 under the table. So she works at a gentleman's club as a cocktail waitress, and so she's never, reported her income to the IRS. So also there was a workers' compensation settlement. They have $0 of that remaining. So some of the issues that we're going to have is the settlement from the workers' compensation claim. This is going to be an issue because if they do approve him for disability, they're going to offset it by this settlement that he received. Obviously, the unreported income from Mrs. Johnson is going to be an issue. The prescription drug addiction that he has is going to be an issue because, substance abuse addiction is not a disability. And so the only way that it becomes a disability is if he has, through the addiction, gained some type of irreversible medical condition. So now I want to apply the 5-step sequential evaluation process. He passes the financial screen because of his unemployment. He passes the severe impairment screen because of the duration test. He passes the medical screen because a disorder of the spine is actually one of the listings of impairment, so he meets that. And then 4 and 5 is the residual functional capacity in the vocational grid. And so I've copied here the one that would actually apply to him under the SR 8312. And this is for somebody who's 53 years of age and who has been referred to light work. And so as you'll see, according to this grid, and according to this step alone, the only way that somebody is actually qualified as disabled is if they are illiterate or unable to communicate in English. And so according to this, he is not. So since Mr. Johnson's surgeon referred him for light work after reaching MMI, he would fall under this grid. So therefore, according to this grid, he's not disabled, and he can find other work beyond his experience to supplement his income. And so in the next video, I want to talk to you about just some of the paperwork that he'll need to do with our office. And also I have another video on some of the paperwork that the SSA is going to require.